Hi, welcome to Moving Into You with Stanwyck. And today we have a very special show. I have Dr. RESPRESS with me today. I'm going to, in a second, have her introduce herself, but I want to tell you this is going to be a bombshell of a show. I'm going to be very transparent with my health issues with Dr. RESPRESS, and you get to see it, you get to hear it, and it's right here, Moving Into You with Stanwyck. Dr. RESPRESS, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me today, Stan.
Oh, no, no problem at all. Let's see. I said you'll introduce yourself. Will
Yes,
you? Thank you.
sure. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, my name is Brandon Respress. I am currently an clinical assistant professor at the University of Texas at Arlington, and I most recently started a small practice called Tokasu Mental Health and Wellness, in which I have clients here in Texas and soon to be in Wyoming. So I'm really excited about that venture. But a little bit more about myself. I am from Cleveland, Ohio. We're Midwesterners out here in the West. And
Go Browns.
yes, go Browns. They're doing really well from what I understand. Um, and I went to school at Case Western Reserve University, in which I received my bachelor's degree in nursing and later went back for my PhD in nursing as well. In between that time, I completed a dual master's degree at The Ohio State University as a pediatric nurse practitioner, as well as received my master's in public health and health services management and policy. So I have a lot of different backgrounds educationally, but as a nurse, I've been a nurse for over 20 years and I've practiced pretty much in a variety of settings, with the exception of obstetrics and gynecology and labor and delivery. Um, so many of the other settings, I do have some experience, but most prominently, my experience has been as an emergency room nurse and an
Oh,
intensive care nurse, as well as mental health. So many of you may know of someone who have had a mental health crises at a time or another. So the first place often that individuals go if they're in a crisis mode is to the emergency department. So
exactly.
oftentimes I would see a variety of individuals ranging from kids to older adults who would come in
Wow.
with, just overwhelming stress. And another thing that they experienced a lot, and I just found this out just really in talking to them, is just unresolved grief, and primarily grief from the loss of a loved one, or it could be a loss of a relationship, or a recent loss of work. And so oftentimes when individuals come into the emergency room, this manifests often as I'm having chest pain, or
Yeah.
or I'm having really bad headaches, or my belly hurts, or my stomach hurts really bad. And so just over the years, I linked them to and linked those two together. And it's not that I was doing anything that isn't known to the healthcare profession, and sometimes even us as individuals, but I made it a point as a nurse to always ask those individual clients if they were
Yes.
experiencing some stress, some abnormal stressors that were going on in their life, which may be linked to the physical symptoms that they were expressing with us. Because it's easier and quick. You get seen a little bit more quickly sometimes if you're coming in with a physical complaint into emergency department. And so that's a little bit about my background and how I've landed here to have this very candid conversation with Stan and the rest of you today.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That's impressive. Your education as well. I mean, very impressive. And yeah, yeah. I want to talk to you about me. And so I want to tell my viewers and my podcast listeners that this is very candid. What you're going to hear I usually interview other people, but today this is about me and what Dr. RESPRESS does in her everyday life. So let me start by saying, Dr. RESPRESS, thank you again for coming on. And
Yes.
I experienced a lot of those things that you just mentioned, the chest pain, the headaches, constant headaches. Um, and I want people to know that, all right, then, well, that's what you said, and I'm just like repeating things. But I want them to know that I have been diagnosed also with bipolar and anxiety. And I have been that way for years, and it has debilitated me. So this is very important to me to get out to people that may go through what I'm going through and may not have ever done anything about it or didn't even think that their physical health may be because of their mental health.
Yeah.
So with my bipolar, um, bipolar goes in cycles, right? The up and downs of the cycle, the norm line, such as that.
Mhm.
Um, I cycle pretty frequently, where I get to the point where I'm like, oh, I can do this, I can do that. Like I'm Superman, I can do everything. So, and then I get to the point where, oh my God, I just can't get out of bed. I don't want to do anything. I might cry,
Yeah. Yeah.
have a lot of sad moments. Uh, Doing this podcast has really brought me out and just it makes me feel better. So this is one of my distractions that
Yeah.
they say you need in mental health. So this is one of my distractions. And you said something about the belly aching type of thing. I have had 17 inches of my colon removed, and that could be from eating, the wrong things.
Yeah.
However, it is a part of stress also, which is the mental part of your everyday life. I know when I go to my PCP and I say, oh my God, I'm having stomach pains and I think the stitches or the mesh they put in me is not right. And he
Mhm.
sends me for a test and everything comes out just fine. So when I see him again, it's like, oh, then you must be stressing out over something. And I'm like, well, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so what do you say about that with me? What I mean, you can't diagnose me, of
Right.
course,
Right.
but
Right.
what do you feel about what I just said?
I think it's really important that we as individuals, it's sometimes it's scary sometimes to tell our physicians really what's going on with us. And I think it may have to do with the fact that we know to go to the doctor when something is hurting or something is broken. But many of us, and particularly in the African American community, have hesitancy going to doctors in general, but we really have hesitancy going to see someone when our heart is hurting
Oh,
or when we're depressed or when we really can't get out of bed. When we just have this overwhelming sense of heaviness that we can't
that's a good way to
shake,
put it. Yeah.
despite our families telling us, get over it, it's okay, that's in the past. Or when we are experiencing this, I'm tired internally, we know this, I'm tired of
Oh,
living this
yeah.
lie, whether it be a lie of who we are as individuals, whether it be a lie of being in relationships that we don't want to be in. And
Oh,
we
yeah.
say these things to ourselves like, I just can't continue to go on like this, but I don't know what to do. I don't know who to turn to. And any other negative thoughts that we may have about ourselves or ruminating, for example, over things that have happened at work. Say we had a negative encounter with a coworker who is criticizing us about our work, or with our boss who is criticizing us about our work. And
I have something to say
t-
about that. No, I'm just
yeah,
kidding.
I mean, it could be so many things that we all are going through, but it sends us in this I don't even want to call it a downspin of our thoughts, but
Oh yeah.
it gets us in this rut of this cyclic thing of thinking. And if we already have a history of experiencing depression and anxiety, or have familial histories of bipolar disorder, for example, these things can exacerbate those things.
Yeah.
Um, Given the times that we are in right now with COVID, and everyone is very uncertain and fearful about getting COVID, or we've experienced tremendous amounts of loss as
Oh yeah.
individuals, as well as a collective whole as a country, and we just don't know what to do. You
Oh,
know,
that's true.
we just don't know what to do. And so, again, how do we express these things to our physicians? Because most of us, our first point of contact is our family practitioners, or our primary care doctors.
Right.
And some of them are very well versed in mental health care, but there are some others who may or may not be. And thankfully, they'll admit that. But again, if we as the individuals are afraid to speak about our own mental anguish or emotional distress, then how can we as healthcare providers really help someone else?
That's
So
true.
I'm hoping that, as a result of this podcast, that individuals sort of know that first of all, it's okay. It's part of life that we all are going to go through cycles, but that there are people and there are things on the other side, on the other side of that, who are there to help you and who can provide resources to you and for you as well.
I'm glad to know that. I'm happy to say that my physician,
Mhm,
he's very good and he recognizes when something has changed in me.
mhm,
I, like I told you, am debilitated from what I'm going through. I didn't tell you that I've experienced this all my life.
mhm,
It was just in 2001 that I was
mhm,
actually diagnosed with bipolar. Through my life, they thought it was, oh, stress or pressured, the words that was coming out back when
mhm,
probably you were little. But
mhm.
those are the things that was being said. And
Right.
family members and friends, like you said, would say, oh, you're okay, you'll be all right. Get
Mhm,
over it. Go lay down. Go
mhm,
take some
mhm.
aspirin. You'll be
Right,
okay when you get up, right?
right, right.
So that was not the case. I mean, I've experienced this all my life,
Mhm,
that as far back as I can remember. I want to be very upfront and transparent in saying that mental health can also cause suicide attempts,
right.
and I have experienced that myself. I have gone through let's say three known suicide attempts. One
Mhm,
when I was in my 20s, one when I was in my 30s, and again one when I was in my 40s. Um, I haven't had a suicide attempt since going into my 50s. Now, I want to state that when I turned 50, I also came out the closet as a lesbian. And right now, I am on testosterone because I am transitioning to a male. So I'm female to male transgender. And I don't know, that made a difference in my life. Maybe that's why I never tried anything, when I was 50. Not saying that I haven't been to the point of having suicidal thoughts. That's something, I really can't control.
yeah,
That's controlled by medication and balancing my thoughts and those receptors.
yes,
Uh, yeah, so I just want to be upfront to say that if anybody out there is having that problem, for where you're having suicidal thoughts and attempts, or just the thoughts of what you can do to
yeah,
harm yourself or anyone else,
mhm,
please get help. Call the
yes,
suicide prevention line, call 911. Anyone you need to call to get help. Call if like Dr. RESPRESS said, if you have a problem and you can't talk to a family member or a friend, do that. Call someone, call whoever it is that you trust, anyone that's in your network. So, Dr. Brandon, we talked before on the phone when we were planning this podcast, but I did not share that with you. You know, I didn't take you back to when I was younger and the things that I had gone through. What would you say to someone like that?
I would agree with you wholeheartedly in reaching out to someone, a family, a friend, and again, contacting or calling the suicide hotline number, which is 1-800-273-8255. There are counselors available 24/7 for individuals who are experiencing those crises. And again, calling 911 or having someone to take you immediately to the emergency room to seek the help that and for you to get this help and attention that is needed. um and so many, I my training is that of a researcher, and I do and go to the literature quite a bit about mental illness, and I have some background and knowledge about some of the causes of individuals who may be suicidal or even eventually may commit suicide. And oftentimes they speak of, even for those who are having suicidal thoughts and may have made an attempt, they oftentimes speak of feeling very, very lonely, um, being burdensome to other people,
Yeah,
and
I
just
felt that.
not having a will. It's just like they don't have anything else to offer. And I personally have never experienced what that is like. I don't know what that is like. However, I can empathize as best as I can as a provider and just really simply as another human being, um, to take the time to listen and be present with someone who is undergoing that moment in their lives. And it is a very scary situation to be in for
Oh,
me as the person who is hearing this. So I can't imagine, and this is just in all honesty, I can't imagine what the person who is actually experiencing this and has these desires is feeling.
can
Because
I interject for a second?
mhm, mhm,
To let you know, and maybe these symptoms are different for everyone, but for me, how I felt when I attempted suicide, I
mhm,
did feel like, and I know I had a world of people out there that would have been for me. However, I could not see that. I was
mhm,
hopeless. I was
mhm,
helpless. I I didn't. I can't say I didn't know where to turn, but I didn't want to turn to anyone.
mhm,
That's the
mhm,
difference. You don't want to turn to anyone when you get to a certain point. Uh, and I felt like, well, the best thing I could do for anyone, and I want to state before I say anything else that attempting suicide is not a selfish act. I want to say that because some people will tell you, oh, you're selfish because you want to,
mhm,
end your life. It is not a selfish act. I don't believe anyway. In my case, I felt as if the thing I wanted to do is I just didn't want to live.
mhm,
I didn't want to wake up to another day. I did
mhm,
not want to see the sun shine again. And like I said, some of this, I've had some things going on in my life that was great. I mean, moving up within a company and doing things that really was excellent in my life. Had a son I was taking care of, and as a single mother, and it was I had everything going for me. To be honest with you, but I could not control that part of my thinking. I was not diagnosed way back then. They didn't know, I guess, so much about bipolarism. They
mhm,
just didn't know. So periodically I was placed on, medications for 30 days here, 30 days there, type of thing,
Mhm.
which in the long run did not work. And so I'm glad to say that I am on a combination of medications that are keeping me um, stable. I cycle a whole lot, and because I have a lot of pains, and people saw me wiping my eyes.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I feel like tearing up, but that's not the case. I also had a stroke. We talk about these headaches, and I also had a stroke
Mhm.
too, and that affects the blinking of my eyes. And
Mhm.
so I go through a lot of have had a lot of physical problems that I probably can say was started off with what was mental,
Yeah.
because I didn't have those physical problems before that.
Yeah, one of the things that I often heard and believe it, and even if again, if we are not diagnosed, and this is just with everyday life, even if we're not diagnosed with a mental health disorder, one of the things that they talked about, and again, research has sort of alluded to over the past probably 10 or so years, is that 95 about just about 95% of our chronic illnesses um, are caused by mental distress, mental and emotional
Wow,
distress.
that's huge.
Um,
Wow.
and when some of the little, I don't want to call it, if you call them pseudonyms or whatever, sometimes that we talk about in medicine, when we say disease, it's like dis ease. When you think about it, if you break the word down, it's dis ease. And again, it just points to again that mental physical um connection that we have. If we think, I mean, just think about, not that I want us to constantly reflect on this and have flashbacks of this, but the events that occurred last week, Wednesday, the
Oh,
horror that we all felt, and seeing that happen live, the helplessness that many individuals who were just watching felt, the
that is
tension
true.
that the intense feelings of fear, anger, um, horror that many of us felt, and probably our bodies clenched, our teeth clenched. This is all a result of acute stress, and physically we were tightening up. We probably
You're
felt ourselves tightening up, and so there again are, how that mental physical connection works. Or let's take something less extreme, say when moms and dads, or for whatever reason, when they have a baby, how intense it is in the room, and trying to get this baby out and bring this new life into the world. And then once the child is born, there's this immense release of emotion, from crying to snotting, it's the whole this overwhelming sense of joy. And so if we're experiencing these, highs and lows with
yeah,
every day, those are not necessarily extremes, but kind of extremes. But if we're experiencing the intensity on both sides of the pole of highs and lows and happiness and sadness, that affects us physically, even when we're screaming and yelling at our kids sometimes. Out of anger, we get tense. You
well,
know,
yeah.
someone cuts us off in the grocery store line. We ready to fight, nowadays. And where at other times we wouldn't, it'd be like, hey, you only have 2 items, go right ahead. I'm not in a rush. But, again, everyone is under such duress and distress right now. And,
Yeah,
just figuring
yeah.
out ways help us all like take a deep breath,
Yeah, I
take a
know.
step
I
back.
know.
It's challenging. It is very challenging to do that. And even in my own personal life, it's challenging to take a step back. But I know I have to in order to be able to do the things that I do on a daily basis as a practitioner, as a mom, and as an educator. I have to take some time out just for myself.
I'm glad you do because other than that, you can't be there for anybody else. If you're not like upfront with yourself that you need to take, hey, I need to take a moment because you're taking a lot. You're taking a lot from other people.
Yeah.
Um, you probably, your heart is there. I know
Mhm.
your heart is there from just talking to you last time on the phone. I was like, you know what? She needs to get her information out. And so I'm glad that you came on here. I want to say too that I've had people ask me this question, and we'll talk about this on another podcast. Why are you transitioning to a black male? I've had that come up, but we'll bring that up on another podcast. So that's a stay tuned for our second part
Yeah.
of of the racism part of it as far as being a black male.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
deal with that one a little bit later. But that is a everyday life for me too. It changed my world with changing me. But I'm very good with that. I love who I am right now. And I can't say that I've ever felt that way before. And
Yeah.
I believe that is a reason for my not actually doing an attempt or, saying,
Mhm.
hey, I live in Arizona. I just want to drive off the cliff. I
Mhm.
thought about that years ago. So that's something that I don't deal with right now anyway. And I
Mhm.
hope it never comes again because it's very stressful and it's just hard for me. Um, and now, like I told you, I'm pretty stable on my medications, but I do actually go in and out. And the thing is, I want to tell everybody out there too who are bipolar, who take medication for being bipolar, having anxiety, schizophrenia, whatever your mental disorder is. I want to say to you, when you recognize your triggers,
Mhm.
go immediately and get help. I learned to recognize my triggers, Dr. Respress, and it has been very helpful to me. And like I told you, this is why I have this outreach for this podcast. It's like a release. This is my moment, and I enjoy it.
Mhm.
So I know that you have an appointment, and I don't want to keep you too long, but I interrupted you. Can you finish do you remember
Yeah.
your thought?
Actually, I don't.
Remind me of your thought.
No, not a problem. But I think you bring up some very good points and some very insightful information as a person who has a mental disorder. It's we as professionals can say anything, but when you hear it from a person who is experiencing this and who has their life experiences, I think that is powerful. And I want to concur with you on the thought of you knowing and recognizing your own triggers. Again, that is helpful not only to you as an individual and knowing like when you need to seek further assistance and contact your provider, but also it helps us as providers to know when you may need additional assistance. And I
Oh
think
yeah.
that's important. I think that's important for all of us in our lives. We're basically, when I hear you talk about the things that you've learned and grown to know and accept about yourself, um, I'll just say it, at least in my life, I just think that that's one of my own personal life goals. I'm not a child of a twin. It's just me. I came into this world, by myself, and you know, I will probably leave by myself. But in between that time,
Mhm.
it's a lot of
You just
opportunity
froze.
for me. It's a lot of opportunity for me to get to know myself. It's a lot of opportunity for me to learn to love myself as I am, regardless of what other people may think about me. And I try to do that on a daily basis. And I try to illuminate that when I'm talking to my clients, or even if I'm talking to a family member who may call me in distress or a moment, or just run something past me, not in a professional way, but just in a like a hey, cuz, how you doing kind of a way. And it's really hard sometimes to just be who we are
Right.
and be okay with who we are, especially in, you know, today with social media. So it takes a little bit of effort to do it, but I want to believe that it's worth it. I want to believe that it's
I'm
worth
looking
it.
for an ink pen.
Yeah, I literally,
Yeah, it,
it's
it
bringing
is
tears to
very
my
much
eyes.
worth it.
Like
You know
it's
what?
it's bringing tears to my eyes literally to say that it is so worth getting to know who you are as an individual. It just is, and no one, we are all special in that manner. And I just want us all to believe that and know that um no matter what your religious background is, no matter what your family background is or how you grew up and things like that, just being okay with who you are, and you
Acceptance.
accepting it.
Yeah.
Yes, you accepting and loving you with all your imperfections, me and all of my little jelly rolls and all of this other stuff. Just loving every
We want
inch
to talk
of it.
about that.
Listen, with COVID, I blame it all on COVID. But you know, but it takes, I mean, it is, understand this doesn't, it doesn't happen overnight. You know, the spaces that
No.
we're in, we didn't get there overnight. It takes time and it takes effort to get there. It takes getting up, looking in a mirror. I love myself. I love this. I love that. Even if you don't
Gratitude?
believe it. Huh?
Is that like affirmations and gratitude?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Essentially it is. I mean, because the words that we speak and say, we hear them first. We hear
Right.
them
Right.
first.
Right.
And so
Well,
it takes a lot of energy and courage. I mean, I have to continue to do this for myself in order to help other people. I can't tell them, oh, get to know yourself, and then I'm at home like, oh, self-loathing all the time. You know, so I have to,
right.
at least for me, in order for me to be as genuine as I can to as a practitioner, but more importantly, to be as genuine as I can for myself. I have to practice and do these things. I'm not always perfect at it, but I get up and try every day. So yeah, yeah, it's
Well, you
it's
know
it's
what?
interesting. Yeah.
You know what? You are an inspiration for your family members, for the people that you work with. You're easy to talk with. So I can see why people would come to you. Just this conversation, this is not like a regular interview. This is a conversation between me and Dr. RESPRESS, everyone. So I appreciate your being here, just to discuss all of that acceptance, the gratitude, the affirmations we have to tell ourselves every morning.
Yeah, yeah.
It's hard to do when someone who's dealing with the things I deal with on a daily basis, but it's worth it, like you said. And it takes time to accept. It takes time to accept
Mhm,
that that you have these disorders. It took me years to
mhm,
accept it,
mhm.
and but I have. I have accepted it, and I want to tell other people out there that you will too. It can happen. You can accept it. It might be over time, but if you find yourself not being able to, please, as we go back again, get that help. Dr. RESPRESS, will you give that number for the suicide prevention hotline
Yes,
again?
yes. It's 1-800-273-8255.
8255. Okay, I think that's going to be really good for everyone to know. And I hope they write it down as I just did. And because you never know when you're going to need it. And I never know when I'm going to need it. I just hope I don't need it. So we're going to wrap up a little bit because I know you have an appointment and I don't want to take you away from anyone else because you've been so awesome here.
Thank you.
Uh,
I try.
Again, thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank
Appreciate you. We will have a part two because of the racism, the just the things that we go through, the transgender, and the things that I hear on a daily basis, and so and the life that's now changed for me there too. So we will talk again, and
Thank you.
I can't say how much I appreciate your being here. You have moved through your life, all this education, your personal life, being who you are, from not just education, you're not just book smart, you're people smart. And that makes a difference in a doctor and a counselor, anyone in your profession, in any profession, but mostly in your profession, where you're dealing with people who are having mental issues and deficiency issues and with who needs medication like myself. So thank you again. I can't say that enough. I keep saying it over and over again because it means so much to me that you came here. And now I'm going to get teared up behind it. Wow, this is awesome. And it gave me, look, I felt like I had a free counseling lesson. You're not charging me, are you?
No. No.
So
No. I hope people will go to their respective, their respective therapists or, seek one for the first time. That's fine.
That's right. I'm glad you said that too. And that's important also. Yeah, because I'm being charged by them. So thank you. So we are going to wrap it up. Your journey has been awesome. Um, thank you for helping me and my viewers for YouTube. This will be the first time I'm moving into you with Stanwick that's going to show up on YouTube. And with my podcast, you can listen to my podcast also. This is for my audience out there. You can listen to the podcast on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, my host provider, simplecast.com, and most importantly, also, I should say, you can go to my website, Because I Love to Dance Entertainment, LLC, and hear this broadcast there too. If you listen to the broadcast wherever it is, because it is on primarily all major platforms, please leave a comment that I can share with my my guest here, Dr. RESPRESS, and let us know what you think about this program today and how you feel and how this may have affected you and what good outcomes that you may have from this particular program. Dr. RESPRESS, again, I want to say thank you. And I want to tell you, well, I want to ask you, did you have anything else you want to add?
The last thing that I wanted to mention, just for us to help to take good care of ourselves, is during this time, because it's flu season, make sure we're getting enough sleep, that we're staying hydrated, so making sure that we drink enough water, and just try to find one thing that we're grateful for, even if it's just one a day. That's just one a day. That's it.
One a day, like
Yeah.
the vitamins. But yeah, that's a good point. We have a gratitude jar here.
Okay, good.
Honestly, I have not used it every day, but I'm going to start after this
One a day.
conversation. I am going to start using it every day. One a day. That's all it takes. So again, thank you for being here with my viewers for YouTube, with my listeners from Moving Into You with Stanwick on my podcast also. And I want to say, like I was going to say, you're moving through your journey just fine, and you're moving other people through their journeys in life too. You just helped me with mine. And I just want to say again to Dr. RESPRESS, keep moving in your journey, and thank you for appearing with us today.
Thank you for having me. You all be well.
Thank you. Okay.